I should stop resetting, but I just don't like making those mistakes so early on.
Ready to race.
Thinking of all the horrible things Nintendo has done. That one tournament they shut down because it used Slippy, which, for context, Slippy is a mod for Melee that allows you to play online. Like, the Smash tournaments that they've shut down is like one of the main examples of how evil they are to fans. But also the fact that for many years they kept copyright striking people that would show footage of any of their games. And then they thought, you know what, people are hating us for it, but we still want to make money. So let's do that fucking creators program where they have to give us their money to be allowed to stream games. It's like, fuck you. Nintendo doesn't deserve their success. I hope they burn and fail. And I say this as somebody that actually grew up with their games and owns a Nintendo Switch. Like, it's so hard for me to not hate Nintendo when I see all these fucking fanboys, like Zyphos mentioned earlier, who act like Mario 64 revolutionized gaming, as if that didn't release around the same time as Crash Bandicoot. As if Spyro the Dragon wasn't the same type of game, but arguably more polished, with better graphics, with better music, made by better devs that respect their fans, and more interesting speedruns, and literally everything's done better. I enjoy Nintendo games, I really do, but it's so hard for me to just not have like it's so hard for me to not just hate how they dominate at least the US, but it feels like if they dominate the world, but that's just because of the internet. If anything, I'm grateful to have grown up on a PS2 as well, so that at least my eyes are somewhat open and I'm not sticking to one company. Yeah, it's crazy because like the reason EA gets clapped on the daily is because their games aren't good. They don't have a Mario Kart, they don't have Zelda, they don't have Smash. What do they have? They have that one Star Wars game where they were like, yeah, we're gonna make you pay for stuff because we want players to feel like they're unlocking stuff. We want to give players a sense of progression by unlocking different characters, and it's like, bro, the only difference between cheat codes in the 2000s and cheat codes in the 2020s is that the cheat codes in the 2020s are from your credit card. Oh yeah, another thing about Nintendo, they jumped on the paid online train when they don't do shit to earn that. Nintendo has not done nowhere near enough to earn the success they have, to earn the fanboys that they have. I'll admit, PlayStation fanboys, especially the ones of the modern era, dude, I hate modern PlayStation fanboys that act like they're so good nowadays, and it's like, bro, they only release like one type of fucking game. They don't do any kind of game preservation, and their games are honestly like, if you don't like one of their games, you're probably not gonna like most of them. Even franchises that have lasted since the PS2 days, specifically Ratchet and God of War, have kind of taken some tropes from the modern era of Sony. As awesome as the new God of Wars look, I don't blame people for saying they blend in with the other exclusives. And Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is just such a modern Sony game that I feel like kind of a douche for even mentioning it, because I know there's people that genuinely like it, but it reeks of modern Sony, I'm gonna be real.
You said it, Digimon. It's getting crazy out
New God of War, I don't blame you. I think it looks cool. Although I'll admit half of that is because of the fucking Leviathan axe that Kratos has. Oh, hi Dylan. I mentioned the game that you know me for, and that's about it. I mentioned Spyro because I compared it to Mario 64 and how I said that Spyro is basically everything SM64 is, but better. And now we're ranting about Nintendo and PlayStation fanboys. Anyways, I went on my mini tangent about how I hate modern Sony fanboys. But the reason I bring them up is because as annoying as they are, I don't dislike them as much as I dislike Nintendo fanboys, because PlayStation has done a few things to earn my respect. Even if I don't like the games they put out nowadays, it's obvious that they're giving fans what they want. And their devs, all the devs that make their games, are infinitely better than Nintendo. Seeing Insomniac support speedrunning, Santa Monica hold a speedrunning event, promoting fan art, fucking what else? Not hating their old games okay, to be fair, Sony hates their old games, but the individual devs themselves, they at least sometimes acknowledge them. Ratchet on PC. I'll admit, I'm like, oh shit. Pay attention. I'll admit, I'm the only person in the world that wasn't really that surprised or shocked or shitting myself when I saw Ratchet on PC. Since that's been like Sony's strategy recently, it's like, that was gonna happen eventually. There's no way they weren't gonna put a Ratchet game on PC. It was either gonna be Rift Apart or PS4 game. What surprised me was that it's not Ratchet PS4, because it's like, wouldn't you want to promote the new one and get people to buy your console by showing them this one, being like, hey, you like that one? We have a better one on PS5. PS4 is a bad game. Yeah, I think they know how hated it is, so they just went with Rift Apart, and also because that's more recent. So you know, that's the only thing that kind of surprised me. Other than that, I'm like, huh. Well, they finally did it. Okay. There's this one screenshot of Ratchet that they've started using recently to promote Rift Apart on PC, and I fucking hate it. It's this one where like his ears are down and he has this kind of snarky look. He looks like he wrote the word poop on the whiteboard in marker in his first grade class. And he's waiting for the teacher to notice it. And I fucking hate it. I hate seeing that image. I guess that too is Eiffels. The fact that not only is like that running on the engine of of Spider-Man, but also the fact that like nobody knows who Insomniac was before Spider-Man. Let's be real. Who cares about Spyro, Ratchet, Resistance, Sunset Overdrive? Who cares about that shit? I'm not even saying that as like a sarcastic. Um, I'm not even saying that as like a sarcastic thing. Like, some people knew of Insomniac, but then in 2018, everyone knew of Insomniac. Oh yeah, I also hate people that think Insomniac is the best PlayStation studio, because usually the only reason for it is because they're pumping out like a bunch of games, and that's not what I hate about it. It's that I know like they go and criticize other devs for not doing the same, and it's like, dude, they have a reason for it. Do you really want them overworking their fucking devs? Yeah, Naughty Dog used to be the best studio until they actually took their time making games.
This one for Clank. Another big race is about to begin.
That was a common case, Zyphos. They were always putting out PS2 games every year. Like both Naughty Dog and Insomniac, and I think Sucker Punch. They were all putting out like one game a year, which was insane and probably caused some people to mentally kill themselves. And a lot of former Insomniac employees would definitely tell you horror stories about developing the OG Ratchet games. Deadlocked is likely the one that had Deadlocked and Ratchet 1 are likely the ones that had the least painful development. I know y'all are thinking, what about Xbox fanboys? You haven't shit on them yet. I wanted to make a joke about what Xbox fanboys, but that kind of sounds like a console war type of thing at this point, and I don't really want to do that. Console wars are stupid. I hate all three companies equally. Wasn't Deadlock like insanely... You're probably thinking of Ratchet 3. Ratchet 1... The story of the Ratchet games individually. Ratchet 1, I don't actually remember much of it. Ratchet 2 was rushed, and you can definitely see it in the gameplay. That Snevolak boss alone is the perfect proof that it's rushed, as well as the Black Label release. The fact that they had to make actual changes in the greatest hits release is proof that it was rushed for sure. But Ratchet 3 had so much they wanted to do for it, but because of the multiplayer, they just could not do most of it. And they have like horror stories of it. Ratchet 3 was by far the most rushed game they've put out, or at least one of the most rushed games they've put out. Deadlocked I'm not sure of, but it is by far the most polished of the OG4 in my opinion. It's the only one where the only complaints I have about it are like minor stuff, or stuff within an individual level, not stuff that spans across the game. It is objectively speaking the least shit PS2 Ratchet game.
Oh yeah!
I'm not saying it's my favorite, but it is objectively the least bad, or the least, you know. Every part of it that you do get is polished. When it got to the PS3 era, because like the PS3 was so much more difficult to develop for, they created Tools of Destruction, and then they fucked up. Tools of Destruction was one of their biggest mistakes for the series. Tools of Destruction is arguably the reason for like half the series' problems nowadays. It all stems from that.
I win again.
Because of Tools of Destruction was supposed to have multiplayer, but they couldn't implement it, and they were stupid to think that they could. And I think they would agree to that. Because of this, they wanted to apologize to Sony, so they created Quest for Booty, which took time away from creating a Crack in Time. So by failing to meet expectations with Tools of Destruction, they created a game that you're not supposed to have any expectations for. and then it also meant they couldn't fulfill expectations for what was supposed to be the pinnacle of the series. Nah, PS3 was cool. The PS3 era Ratchet games are not as good in my opinion, but there were some other good stuff. You had stuff like Uncharted, which looks like a nice way to kill some time, if anything. I want to try them out someday. The Resistance games look like fun shooters, at least. That's the best I can say for first-person shooters. Yeah, fucking God of War 3. One of the fucking best games ever made, baby! Yeah, Tools was rushed as fuck. Tools Destruction was rushed as hell. They wanted to originally have 25 fucking planets in that game. They wanted 25 planets, and then after like a long period of time, they only created one, and they were left with like a year to create the game, and they were thinking like, don't panic guys, now at least we know what we want to make.
Oh, yeah!
I'm told that Uncharted 1 is like the worst of the series. I know Marathon Man thinks it's actually a bad game, so, you know. I will say, one of the reasons I want to try Uncharted is for the speed runs. Sir Sanju told me that like they do so many out of bounds, and I checked out a run of Uncharted 1, and indeed they were doing a lot of out of bounds. There's this weird clip where they seem to zoom in a bunch of times, and then it just clips them out of the level. I wanna know more about that. It's kind of like that clip from the Resident Evil 4 remake. You zoom in a bunch of times, you know. So I mean, if y'all, maybe one day y'all will see Uncharted speedruns in the bio, or in the title, I mean. Hold on a second. Before I continue reading, I don't think I'm gonna clutch out a 17. I am not even looking at the timer right now. Do I clutch it out? Oh, I did clutch it out. Let's go! I get a Jolie sub! And I beat my real PB. Do they have camera clips? Sounds like Duda clips. If you mean Uncharted and Resident Evil 4 remake, they have something kind of like it. But yeah, I got a 17. TO Steam, if you're here, cough up the thing. Cough up the sub.